Hello, Nicholas.
Hello, Adam.
How are you, senor?
Doing amazing.
Good.
Yeah, summer's been going great so far.
I know. It's been blazing by.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We were at a recent gig for summer internship.
Yes.
And we were working with a lot of juniors and seniors in college.
Correct.
Particularly in the state of Iowa.
Yep.
But there were also students outside.
There were a number of them from various states, Ohio and Florida, and I think Pennsylvania. One student was from. So, and I was getting lots of questions. Did you get a lot of questions from them?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
What questions did you get?
Well, the one that was most prominent, because I think it was asked by 3 or 4 people, we were talking about networking and how to build your career and things like that. And at least 3 of them came up to me and said, I'm not really sure what I want to do. And there was a sincere look of panic in their eye.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, like, this was a big deal that they did not yet know what they wanted to do for a living. And I'm curious, did you get the question?
I did, yeah. And I think what I asked them was, in the internship process, like, what department are you in?
Yeah.
And a lot of them still had hesitation around, like, I don't know if it's what I really want to do.
Yeah.
And I put myself in their shoes because I was there not too long ago, but during my internship, still not knowing what it is that I want to do too.
Yeah.
And I think in today's society, it can be very easy to fall into pressures of like needing to know what you need to do.
No doubt.
So the space of discovery can be missing a little bit.
Yes, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I maintain too that college students and even recent graduates, there is this intense pressure on making a decision.
Yeah.
People constantly asking, what are you going to do? What's your future? What is the dream job? All that stuff, right? And so the first thing that I told them, and then I want to hear what your advice to them was. First thing I said was, let me let you off the hook. You don't need to know. Like, for you to think that you absolutely have to know is setting yourself up for frustration and failure at some level.
Yeah.
Partially because, and we've talked about this before, I think on the podcast, but that the prefrontal cortex is the last part of the brain to fully develop. And the prefrontal cortex allows for forward thought and rational decision making and executive functioning. And so because it's the last part of the brain to fully develop, the decisions that part of the brain makes are a little lapsed in being made. So I didn't know what I fully wanted to do until I was probably 28 or 29.
Yeah.
And that was probably about when my prefrontal cortex grew in. So
you're saying my prefrontal cortex is still
it's developing, Nick.
Yeah.
So the first advice I would give to anyone who says, help, I don't know what I want to do for a living, is let yourself off the hook. This is a big decision, and we're going to give you some ideas and some ways of how to find it. But I don't want you to put too much undue pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
What advice did you give?
I'm always intrigued by numbers and statistics. I think I read somewhere where it was like the average millennial or young college graduate is going to change their change their career, 7 times in their lifetime.
Yeah.
And I looked at my career path, and I've changed jobs 6 times within 3 years.
Yeah.
So, I shared that with them to let them know that, like, oh no, there are people out there who are changing careers, and it's totally fine, right? Like, I ended up fine, at least. They thought I was cool, right? But just letting them know that, like, it really is a discovery and a process.
Yes.
So the questions I would ask them is, like, are you enjoying your time there? Like, are you having fun? Meeting people in the department that you're working with. So it's much more personality driven versus like the actual task at hand. Because I think in careers, we're going to spend time with them more than we do our partners or family or anything like that. So if you don't enjoy that, that could also be a conversation point to really see, and answer the question, help, I don't know what I want to do for a living.
Yeah.
One question you could ask is, like, who do I want to spend time with?
Right.
And then from there, doing what?
Yes.
Yeah.
One other piece of advice I would give to those of you who don't know what you want to do for a living is, are you paying close attention to the people in your life who seem to, and I don't want to say have it all together because everyone's got their own things, but someone who's living a life or a lifestyle that you think you might enjoy. Do they love what they do? What kind of schooling do they do? have conversations with folks like that and find out what about their job or their career do they love, and why do they approach it the way they do, and how, and take some of those cues for yourself. One of the things that I go back to as well in helping young people figure out what it is they want to do is asking the question, what did you do when you were a kid that time absolutely stood still? And I know people who will say, oh, I used to build with Legos, and I would spend hours and hours and hours in Legos, and look up and it would be 5 hours had passed and I wouldn't have paid any attention to it. I know some people that will say, oh, when I'm drawing or I'm coloring, I could do anything. Some people play dress up, and they go, well, what does that have to do with what I want to do for a living? And a lot of times what I find is that thing that you did when you were a kid that really fired you up and made time stand still contains some element of what you should probably be doing with your life. Yes.
Question for you.
Yes.
So what is it that you did as a kid that had time stop?
So I love comedians. I've always loved comedians, and I would find clean comedians with the help of my parents when I was a kid. And I would study their routine, and I would memorize their routine. And then I would go deliver their routine at family parties and events and when we were on vacations and stuff like that.
Awesome.
Much to the enjoyment of my family. They'd all applaud me and tell me how cool it was that I was doing this. And I got a lot out of it. And I realized when I turned 27 or 28, what I really like to do is entertain. And public speaking and professional speaking there is a component of entertainment in it. Yeah. And so I realized that fit hand in glove with what I did as a kid, and time stood still.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Did your family know that you were copying the bits from and rehearsing the bits from the comedian?
Not at the time.
Okay.
So they thought that I was coming up with all this material. I wasn't like, oh, hey, this is Bob Nelson's bit about the football team. I just did that. Yeah. So I should find some footage of that, and we'll try and cut it in.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Anyway.
Okay. Last thing, a couple last things that I would say, especially for people who are in a space of help, I don't know what I want to do for a living. With today's day and age of the internet and Google and YouTube, it is very easy to type in, what does the average day of a mechanical engineer look like, or a professional speaker, or a professional dog hotel overnight thing.
Right.
There's so many ways to learn, shadow, and then just get the inside perspective of certain professions.
Yeah.
So
not only that, but I also think online you could go out and take all sorts of assessment tests that sort of determine what are your skill sets, what are you passionate about, and then it will marry them. These are the things that you might consider doing.
Yep.
So, if you were stuck in that quandary of help, I don't know what I want to do for a living, don't sweat it. Just spend a little bit of time, be easy on yourself, and spend some time digging into what possible things might you do that you would find interesting. And then leverage and utilize the information that you find on Mastery of Money, on the YouTube channel, the podcast, and online to help you maybe reduce your expenses and increase your income over time so that you can actually live a life and enjoying doing what you love to do.
Beautifully said.
Cool. Thank you.
That was awesome.
Thank you. Here's our challenge. Do some thinking on what it is you want to do that you would enjoy and love getting up and doing every single day. I find that on Mondays, I love to get up and I love to go to work. I'm okay when weekends end. I have fun with my family on the weekends, and then it's time to go to work.
Yeah.
And I really love doing it. And ultimately, that's what we wish for you.
100%.
Cool.
Do us a favor, like, comment, share this with your friends, and we look forward to seeing you on future episodes.
See you soon.